All right, today we're headed to the very, very edge of England, to a town that, it's so much more than just a pretty seaside postcard. We're talking about Penzance, the historic holy headland. This place is all about resilience, a bit of rebellion, and it is packed with some incredible secrets. And its story? Well, it starts right where it has for centuries, down at the town's harbor. So here we are. This is our starting point, the town's granite-lined harbor. You got to imagine, for hundreds of years, this spot was everything. It was the town's lifeline, but also its biggest weakness. It was a gateway for trade, sure, but also for invaders, and of course, smugglers. So let's start peeling back those layers of history, beginning with the name itself. So, Penzance. Where does that name even come from? Well, it's from the Old Cornish word Penzance, which means holy headland. And that name refers to a tiny chapel dedicated to St. Anthony, the patron saint of fishermen, which makes perfect sense, that stood right on this coast over 1,000 years ago. I mean, think about that. From the very beginning, this town is built on a sense of ancient history, on sacred ground. And that history, it's really defined by one thing more than anything else. Just an incredible ability to endure. Seriously, to really get Penzance, you have to understand how it has managed to survive and rebuild itself over and over and over again. I mean, just look at this timeline. Penzance has been tested by fire, by conflict, you name it. In 1595, it was literally burned to the ground by a Spanish fleet. This was the last hostile invasion of mainland England. But did they give up? No way. It rose from the ashes, and just 20 years later, it got a prestigious royal charter. Then, bam, it gets plundered during the Civil War for siding with Parliament in a mostly royalist county. It's like every single time it got knocked down, it just came back stronger. And this whole cycle of destruction and rebirth really hits its peak in the 19th century. The railway arrives, and it doesn't just help rebuild the town, it completely transforms it into the sophisticated resort we know today. Okay, so let's start our tour right at the water's edge. This is where you can really feel the raw power of the Atlantic. And you can see exactly how Penzance has learned to live with that power, defend against it, and, yeah, even celebrate it. So right along the promenade, you get this incredible trio of landmarks. First, you've got the Jubilee Pool. It's this absolutely stunning piece of 1930s Art Deco. And its cool triangular shape, that's not just for looks. It was specifically designed to handle ferocious storms. Then, nearby, you've got the Battery Rocks. This is the exact spot of that original Holy Headland Chapel we talked about. Later on, it became a military strongpoint, guarding the bay all the way from the Napoleonic era through World War II. And then, framing the whole scene, you have these massive granite piers. Just these colossal feats of Victorian engineering built for one reason, to tame those powerful Atlantic waves. All right, let's head away from the harbor now. Because if you really want to read the story of Penzance written in stone, well, you only have to walk up one single street, Chapel Street. Walking up Chapel Street is honestly like time travel. It's a living map of the town's history. You've got these grand, elegant Georgian townhouses sitting right next to ancient, crooked pubs and these totally quirky, one-of-a-kind buildings. It's a complete jumble of styles, but somehow, it just works. It's perfect. Okay, case in point, the Admiral Benbow Inn. You have to see this place. It's like a ship was turned inside out. The whole pub is decorated with actual, genuine artifacts from 400 years of shipwrecks. It was a famous hangout for smugglers, the Benbow Brandy Men they were called. And get this, all those legends about secret tunnels, they were proven true in 2008, when they actually discovered one leading from the cellar straight to the harbor. And yeah, it's even said to be the inspiration for the pub in Treasure Island. Then, just a bit further up the street, you have the Union Hotel. And this place was the site of one of the most incredible moments in British history. Just try to picture this. It's 1805. A messenger, fresh off a fishing boat that just spoke to a naval ship, bursts into the hotel's grand assembly room. There's a fancy ball going on, music playing, everyone dancing. He finds the mayor, who stops the music to announce two things: a massive victory at the Battle of Trafalgar and the death of Admiral Nelson. Right there, Penzance became the very first place in all of Britain to hear the news that would define an entire era. And this next bit just perfectly sums up the street's eclectic character. On one side, you have Branwell House. It's this calm, orderly, perfectly respectable Georgian home. This was actually the childhood home of Maria Branwell, who would later become the mother of the famous Bronte sisters. Then you look just across the street and you see, well, this, the Egyptian house. It was built in the 1830s during this huge fad for all things ancient Egypt. And it is just a fantastically bizarre, brightly colored, wonderful piece of architectural eccentricity. What a contrast. Okay, so let's head up to the top of the street now and see how all this history builds into the real civic heart of Penzance, a place that was built to show off the town's 19th century ambition and its serious intellectual power. This is the market house. With that incredible green copper dome, this building was a statement, a big one. It was built with these massive ionic columns made from local Cornish granite. The whole grand classical style was designed to shout to the world that Penzance was not some remote backwater. No, this was a sophisticated, wealthy town, a little London at the end of the line, and it was all powered by the huge riches coming from the tin mining industry. Victorian travelers even called it the Cornish Parthenon. And standing right there, in front of the market house, is a statue of the town's most famous son. And it's not a mayor, or a general, or a lord. It's a scientist, Sir Humphrey Davy, a man who, from right here in Penzance, would literally change the world. Davy was an absolute genius, a pioneering chemist who discovered elements like sodium and potassium. But his most famous invention, the one that really changed everything, was the miner's safety lamp. And you've got to understand, this wasn't just some local breakthrough. The Davy lamp saved countless lives, yeah, but it did more than that. It didn't just help in the Cornish tin mines, it made it possible to dig into deeper, much more dangerous coal seams all over Britain and the world. He basically unlocked the very fuel that powered the entire industrial revolution. So you have to ask, right? How on earth did a boy from the end of the line, a place many people thought of as totally remote, end up changing science forever? How did he become the president of the Royal Society, one of the most important scientists of his time? It really says something about the culture of curiosity and inquiry that must have existed here. But Penzance isn't all just granite buildings and scientific breakthroughs. There's another side to it, a deeper, more mystical side to its character, a soul that's been shaped by folklore, by a truly unique climate, and a magnetic pole that just keeps drawing in creative people. I mean, here, the landscape itself tells stories. Just look across the bay. You see St. Michael's Mount looming there. That's the lair of the giant cormorant, slain by Jack the Giant Killer. And beneath the streets, you've still got all those whispers of smugglers' tunnels, which, as we've learned, are definitely more than just whispers. And then, just beyond the horizon, there's the legend of the lost land of Lyonesse, this mythical, sunken kingdom that really haunts the local imagination. You can also find the town's soul in a place like the Murab Gardens. It's incredible. See, thanks to the Gulf Stream, Penzance has one of the mildest climates in the entire UK. And the Victorians, during their botanical mania, took full advantage. They created this amazing subtropical paradise, just cramming it with plants from all over the globe. It's way more than just a park. It's this living, breathing proof of Penzance's uniquely special place in the world. And that unique character, especially the extraordinary quality of delight here, well, that drew in the artists. A whole group of them, the Newland School painters, settled just down the road. They were tired of painting idealized, stuffy scenes. They wanted something real. And they found it here, in the honest, rugged authenticity of the fishing communities. Penzance really became a sanctuary for creatives who were looking for something true. Okay, let's finally talk about the parrot in the room. Because when most people hear the word Penzance, they think of one thing, and one thing only: pirates. But the real story is so much more interesting than that. Here is the absolute best part, the brilliant irony of Gilbert and Sullivan's famous opera, The Pirates of Penzance. They didn't choose this town because it was a den of pirates. They chose it for the exact opposite reason. By the time they wrote it in 1879, Penzance had become so famously peaceful, so respectable, so proper, that the idea of it being overrun by a bunch of chaotic pirates was just hilariously absurd to a Victorian audience. That was the whole joke. The punchline was the town's own respectability. So when you really look at it, Penzance isn't just some place on a map. It's a lesson. A lesson that pretty much every town, every city, has these hidden layers of resilience, of weird eccentricity, and of myth just waiting under the surface. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What hidden stories of survival and reinvention does your own town have to tell?